Om Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. So, chapter number 6 is unique in one way. First of all, it concludes the whole karma section, karma yoga section. So this is the last chapter in karma yoga, and this in the 7th will be the beginning of bhakti yoga section. And it has a special name. It is Atma Samyama Yoga, which is translated. Let me check how it is translated here. As yoga of self-subdual, self-control. Somehow unexpected self-control we spoke all the time, but now it comes to its utmost, to its highest, so to say. So let us see how it starts. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashritah Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sasanyasi Cha Yogi Cha Naniragnir Chanak Chak Naniragnirna Chakriyaha. Sorry. Too many near double double negations. So, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Anashritah Karma Phalam, the one who is not finding his refuge in the fruit of action, Karyam Karma, and the work which is to be done, Karoti Yaha, he does, Sa Sannyasi, he is the Sannyasin, Sa Yogi Cha, or Cha Yogi Cha, and he is Yogin. Na Niragnich, but not the one who is not kindling the fire, na chakriya, and not the one who is not doing an action. And this na niragnir na chakriya, we need to focus upon a bit longer, just to see the deeper meaning of these two words, why they are here suddenly. So he is sannyasi and he is yogi, the one who is not finding his motivation in the fruit of action, but does the work which is to be done, literally, yes? Karyam karma karoti. Yeah, notice how many karma, kri roots, karma phalam, karyam karma karoti, 4 words in one row. It's very typical for this literature, more for the Vedic literature, where Vedic rishis enjoy to use the same root many times. They don't have this problem of repeating the same word in different way. Actually, it more emphasizes the meaning, which in our mental structure, when we think in mental language, it's very unpleasant to repeat the same concept twice. And many people cannot bear that when somebody is beating around the bush again and again, because you repeat the same thing from the point of view of the mental concept, but it is not from the point of view of widening the connection or deepening the connection. It needs to be, we need to dwell on it in many different views until the connection is established and you can feel or see the problem. That is the device, so to say. So again, he repeats the same. The one who is not motivated by the fruit of action, but does the work which is to be done, he is sannyasin, he does sannyasa, and he is yogin. You remember the whole discussion about yogin and sannyasin, who is the one who does sannyasa, who is the one who does yoga. They are two different things, but this is the one he is sannyasi and yogi at the same time. But two more categories are coming. Naniragnih, but not the one who is not aspiring, who has no fire. Nachakriyaha, and not the one who is not moving, not working, not acting. Quite interesting, yeah? So the fire has to be there lit, and the action is there to be done. And then you are sannyasi, and then you are yogi. But not without these two. Not without aspiration in the heart and the action in the body. Then you are not sannyasi, and you are not yogin yet. So this is an additional kind of twist to not being motivated by the fruit of action, but by the work which is to be done. And still, something is to be also maintained, that to have fire, aspiration for higher purpose of life, and to do something for this also. It has to be done as the nature does it. And then, Yam sannyasam iti prahuh, that what is sannyasa, as they say, yogam tam vidhi pandava, know that as yoga. Nahya sannyasta sankalpah yogi bhavati kashana, because yogi cannot be without renunciation of sankalpa, of the intention. If the intention is not renounced, then there is no yoga, there is no yogin. So without renouncing the desire will in the mind, the yogin cannot come into being. We cannot speak about yoga. So sannyasa is the inherent part of yoga. So if you want to do yogic action, you have to renounce your intention or your desire will, your personal motivation. This is the most difficult part for the Western mind, who is so kind of in charge of the whole process and, responsible for each choice and movement. And in that sense, every time when this topic is coming up, always there is so much misunderstanding and discussion around it, and how it could be done that you renounce the fruit of action. How can you at all act? Yes, if there is no result-oriented action. And every time we have to look into it deeper, because renunciation is on the psychological side. It's not really in action. And that's what he says here so beautifully. Nacha agnih, nacha akriyaha. So not the one who has no aspiration for the higher being, and not the one who is not doing anything. So the doing, it seems, the action is the very important part of this realization. So action has to be maintained, but together with the aspiration in the heart and renunciation of the fruit of action for our egoistic purpose. So the one who did not renounce his desire will, he is not yogin. Only the one who renounced his desire will, he is yogin. And sannyasa then is called yoga. Thus you should know. There is no other yoga. If you renounce the action, you have aspiration, and you do the activity, renounce the fruit for your purpose, for your own self-satisfaction, then you are yogin. And here is, today I just looked into this, and it was like a new meaning suddenly came for me after so many years of reading it. I just got it, something else. Arurukshoh muner yogam karma karanamuchyate. Yoga rudhasya tasyaiva shamah karanamuchyate. So of the one who wants to climb to the top, Arurukshoch Munech, of the one, of Muni, of the yogin who is climbing, who wants to reach the top, to the top. Karma karanamuchyate. The action is the major reason or cause. The action is the cause to reach to the top of yoga, of the one who is ascending, yeah, who is rising. Yoga rudhasya, but of the one who reached the top, who already got the connection of his own higher self with his inner self and his outer self, where his mind, vital, and body become one. Tasyaiva shamah karanamuchyate. Then his motivation or his cause is peace. Peace is the cause of his action. And you know what I saw in this? Something new. I always was aspiring that peace has to be the cause of your action. And it is too early. It is too early to build on peace the action, because the nature is not yet transformed. There is no yet oneness of the higher inner outer being. And because there is no oneness, one cannot build on peace. It's a different attitude. I was always wondering what Sri Aurobindo meant when he discussed this with Pavitra, where Pavitra asks him about the attitude in yoga, what he should do. And Sri Aurobindo told him that he has to observe his thoughts and then let force work, open up, surrender to this force and just not interfere, allow it to work. And then he says, after some time, when the inner being will awaken, the attitude should be changed. And I was wondering, he never said what other attitude should be there. And I was always wondering, what would be the next step of attitude? So it seems that on the stages of development, there are different attitudes. And here in this shloka, we can see these two different attitudes. Of the one who is aspiring to the top of the yoga, the action is the cause, the motivation. And for the one who already made the connection, realized the unity of all his members of consciousness with the higher or with the inner self, the peace is the motivation. If you have some thoughts, please share, because this is a profound thing. It's a very psychological, and we know it by experience that it is somewhere touching something very fundamental of our yoga.
Vladimir, I have a quick question.
Sure.
When you say peace is the cause, then what do you mean? Do you mean there is now peace will become the cause for a higher realization for the next step? What is the peace the cause of?
You see, he is writing self-mastery is the cause. But the word is shamaha. Shamaha is the first meaning from root sham, from here shanti, peace. But peace in this deeper sense, which is, for me, what it says for me is that peace which I always wanted to be my motivation in action, not the action itself to be motivation, is actually leading to this kind of stagnation in a way. Because the members are not really yet harmonized, and what happens that some of them take charge or the disbalance is becoming obvious. This happens to everyone who does this yoga and who is for many years there in the ashram or Auroville. I know it, I saw it, and I felt it, and I experienced it. So this is a big fundamental problem of all our yoga path. So for the one who aspires to establish this unity with one's inner self and outer self and all the members of consciousness, to unite them, to harmonize them, the action is the must, let us say. But the one who achieved that union, the peace is the must. You have to keep up with that as the major drive of all your activities, whatever happens.
Thank you.
But till that moment, we may have some peace, some realization, but it is not yet the top yoga rudhasya, not of the one who is on the top of yoga. Today we read the hymn, first hymn to Rigveda, and what is interesting that the first hymn of the Rigveda speaks of the same, of the union of three levels of consciousness, yes, and in the very similar manner, but in the dynamic sense, where the Agni is aspiring and rising from earth to heaven, and then from heaven he already in the form of the sun, where he joined the heavenly realms, he answers to this call. So Agni is calling from one side, and from the other side is answering to the call. So there is a call and answer, and once they come together, then Rigveda says, Rajantamadhvaranam Gopam Ritasya Devim Vardhamanam Svedame. So I invoke Agni, who is already ruling, shining in these pilgrimage sacrifices. Rajantamadhvaranam Gopam Ritasya, the protector of light, of the dynamic truth, Devim, blazing here, Vardhamanam Svedame, growing in one's own home. Once the connection is made of the higher consciousness and the lower call and answer, there is a new quality. So the Lord, the divine consciousness, starts growing in its own home. And that is a totally different attitude. There is no more action for the sake of achieving something or realizing or removing something. There is a peace as a motivator, a peace which is holding that action of the divine, can allow it to act. So such a simple shloka is charged with a deep and profound significance for the yoga process.
Vladimir, my book says tranquility, so, which is fine.
Tranquility,
yeah. It's this, I get it. I mean, and it's fascinating, but I was thinking, I have some yogi friends that I've been sharing yoga with for the past 20 years. And we're always like, how are you? And it seems like it's always the same conversation. We're always trying to meditate and do our practice to get to this state of peace, and love, and then to hold it. It's true. I'm fascinated by what you say. I don't know how to answer it. I can say with some authority that this peace within me in meditation that I can get to, it appears and it seems to be the same moment eternally. It's the same peace it was 20 years ago as it is joining class tonight. Why do I go in so many circles with the mind and all of this? Is I think I hear you telling me that at some point the peace holds on and then grows and somehow grace maybe takes charge. Is that?
Yes, when the union takes place, then what you have to take care of is only one thing: peace. Because then there is the process starts to be totally different. If before that you have to do things for peace, yeah, you have to sit, meditate, you have to remove obstacles, you have to deal with your desires, you have to, what we do all our life, yeah, we are struggling with ourselves, with our lower selves. There is a deeper, higher self in us which is fighting with lower selves. And that fight is totally legitimate. That's what Gita says. Yeah? There's nothing wrong about it. Many people say it's wrong. You should not. You should love yourself. You should accept yourself. What self should I accept? This self which is totally unacceptable in every way. Should I accept? So to say, it's another. I don't want to criticize that position, love yourself, accept yourself. I understand that people struggle with other issues like inferiority complex and so on and so forth. Yes, they should do something about it. I don't mean to say that they should not accept themselves as they are, because from there the true view on yourself starts. You can recognize who you are finally. You know, instead of imposing onto yourself some dogmas of whom you have to be. But that is mental treatment. I'm speaking about fundamental treatment, viewed from the true point of view, that I recognize that I don't want to be this, what I am now, like puppet in the forces of vital and mental and other physical conditionings which are determining me and my behavior and my way of thinking. Nobody of us wants to be this puppet. We suffer from it. We hate ourselves when we are not in control of ourselves, as this chapter is talking to us. It's exactly about this, how to control ourselves by ourselves.
I was thinking about how we can regard the peace referred to here in relation to Sri Aurobindo's discussions of equality, which is, I think, a greater term to use than equanimity when faced with the varieties of the vicissitudes of life. Because there's the static peace, which comes from which we have at our core, in a sense, and which we can get in touch with through meditation. In a sense, it's sometimes considered to be nirvana, that experience. And then there's the real equality that we can have as we proceed through action, and with a detached effort in our works, and facing whatever the results of those are with a higher form of equanimity.
When you were talking, I had this, the equality is preceding the peace quality in the mother symbol. So equality is the corridor to the peace, which is already established as the fundamental achievement in manifestation in a way, and which permits the higher forces to reach out and to work here, connects Mahasaraswati with Maheshwari, which is everything. So the highest to the most realizing Shakti are connected through peace. That's what I was thinking when you asked. And also equanimity and equality, interesting distinction which you made. Equality is more, I think, spiritual quality, whereas equanimity is more psychic in a way, more psychological. It's more a treatment or an attitude, equanimity, whereas equality is already something which is realized in nature. in general. Yeah, not that you have to make a kind of an effort to do it. Equanimity, yes, you have to make an effort, as it were, but equality is already something which appears as a result of that effort to be of equanimity. Maybe I'm wrong. You correct me if I'm just carried away. But two, psychic and spiritual, coming together, equanimity and equality in one.
My interpretation of the terms is consistent with yours, Vladimir.
No.
That seems right to me.
Well, what I was thinking of when Martha, you were speaking, is that in describing peace as sort of that nirvana, I think peace can also be an active peace, right? A peace that has force in it, a peace that has movement in it, so that it doesn't stay at the nirvana level, right? That it's actually here as we go through action, as we perform duties, etc. I was thinking, Mother's always making the difference between, like passive vigilance and active vigilance, passive and active. And so I think we can say that about peace too, that perhaps this peace is the peace that has the power within it, and not inert, but active power. So just a thought as we were speaking about it.
I think you're totally right, because here shamach karanam uchyate. Karanam is that which is causing the movement of life. The cause of life is peace in this case. It's an active state of holding to this equality. You remember Mother has one prayer in prayers and meditation where she hears the voice of the Lord telling her that whatever happens, you have to keep up with equality. Whatever, you only one responsibility you have, keep up with equality, whatever happens. This is, I think, that shamach, that once the action of the Lord starts through you and you are the carrier, what you have to take care is not to start judging it or start, putting it into your perspective, or you have to see all the elements, allow all the elements to work. And we do not have that vastness or that intelligence. So we have to keep with that equality. Yeah, this is a profound topic.
I think in the early letters to Sri Aurobindo, when the sadhaks, the disciples, were asking, what should we ask for and what should we try to aspire for first? He always said, get the peace first. And then on that basis, on that wideness and that security, all the other things will come, like ananda and force and so on. So I think peace is the first requirement, really.
Well, according to Sri Aurobindo, yes, calming the mind, yes, and peace, he makes a distinction between calming the mind, silencing the mind, and peace. Peace is the result which is already of a big transformation in a way, yes. Because calm mind is like, it's like silencing would be much more difficult to silence the mind. And with the silence of the mind, there is this peace descending. It's something like already a realized state of existence, like nirvana, as you were describing. Yeah? Yes, but we use these words kind of extending their meanings. Yes, peace is fundamental for any yoga. So, and maybe in Sri Aurobindo's presence and the mother's presence, it was a bit different also,
Well, I think too, doesn't he speak about, bringing the peace, bringing the light, bringing the knowledge, the power, bringing the power down. So it's almost a peace a transformative peace, right? So a peace that you bring down through the mind, through the heart, through your being, that can transform or at least prepare you for the next step. This might be also what the piece is that was being referred to in the conversation. You know, that higher piece that can come down and still and transform and prepare the person.
Yeah, well, yes.
Not so much calming the mind is what I guess I'm referring to, but the piece that exists above the head, the power.
Right. Most probably there are more varieties of things, and in different cases could be that there are different ways to go about it. But even for Pavitra, he had to do certain activities before he arrived at that even sense that there is force above, and that it descends, and with that descent of force which he had to allow to work upon his consciousness, so to say, to keep up open with it, so to say, removing his thoughts and his preferences, as in the Gita, by the way, then he had to allow that peace to descend. It's something which is coming with that force, and light and wisdom and bliss. It cannot be somehow done by us. And there are people who try to do it also, but usually it may turn to be something else, some other type of peace, or some other type of bliss, which is very mental or vital or dogmatic or philosophical or whatever. I've been through all of these modalities through in my lifetime, so to say. I tried all the false paths also. So, and from that time on, I started to dislike the idea of guided meditation, such as imagine that you feel good and you see the light inside, outside, you feel warmth around yourself, your heart center pulsating. Our vital can do anything, can do miracles, It can create the divine for us, as Sri Aurobindo somewhere says. And he
But
even
still, the mother does say it's very helpful to imagine when attempting to connect with the psychic, to imagine a tunnel, to imagine a fire within. So she says for some people, mental people, that imagination might actually work. So there's different methods for different people. You never know what's going to trigger that connection.
Agree. It could be that there are as many ways and better ways for some, for others it's totally not working. And I found my kind of explanation, but that is also only for me, definitely. And I would say not imagine, but see, see that tunnel, find the tunnel. And once you find it, it's very real. It's not something like imagination. It's nearly tangible, It is there, definitely. Because maybe imagining it
Well,
helps.
she uses the word imagine. She was asked, can we imagine something? How do we know if it's true? And she said, yes, if imagining helps, then you should use that. So
Yeah,
I think
maybe
it's a
it
real tool for people.
could be that it helps to find the contact with that tunnel and then proceed in a real way. Could be. Even imagining as remembering or something. Yeah.
Remembering, interesting. I'm going to interject and then I'll be quiet. Imagining, the peace is here, the grace is here. I'm watching us all now. We're moving into the next chapter. We're expanding together. I've been drawn to this, but as soon, I was very scattered today, and as soon as I logged in and I saw you all, there's that love and that tranquility, that peace comes up. I didn't do it. It's here somewhere. And I've always just been fascinating because I always used to look at the swamis and go, oh, I want to be a swami. They've got the peace. And then I always want to think, who's got the peace in this group? Is it Rade? Maybe it's Robert or Martha. Vladimir might have the juice. Maybe it's our, it's here. And then it was always pointed out, Bill, yes, it is here, but it's you. I'm experiencing it within myself. It's my own being experiencing it. I've been always so tricked to looking outside and saying, who's got the peace and the power? I want to go be around it. And part of the action is simply to just put myself in the presence of it. And yet it's me as well expanding along with all of us at the same time. So maybe now I'm getting too far out there, but
Yeah, it's wonderful.
it's been a lifelong journey, remembering that. Now, and thank you for telling me that I didn't miss the boat by not being, taking sannyasa vows many years ago. There's still hope. Thank you.
Vladimir?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah, I agree with what Radhe said earlier in terms of different approaches to meditation. I may be viewed as a heretic. For me, meditation comes through exercise. So that has been my connection with the mother, is through exercise, through gymnastics. So I find that is the easiest way for me to reduce the mental traffic and come towards silencing the mind.
Interesting. What an interesting, unique way. I believe so. It is possible.
It's through the sadhana of the body, as mother calls it.
Yeah. So karma leads to peace, basically. Karma, the action. Action is needed. Action is the major drive of the whole energy towards the realization. And then once the realization is there, one has to keep it open to it, allow it to act. This is my kind of take on this shloka today. When I read it today before our class, I thought, wow, this is what it means, the change of attitude. But most probably it starts earlier, when we seek the peace, when we got a bit of peace, when our members are harmonized, we want to remember it, we want to come back to it, we aspire for it. Yeah? Because in that moment we were fulfilled. We were happy, simply. It's not the peace of doing nothing, being happy, when all the energies are tamasic and resting. No, it's something else. It's an equilibrium of all the powers of consciousness.
That when you say that, Vladimir, it makes me think that, in these 12 qualities or 12 living principles, peace, as you mentioned, is the last one. And it's also the last of the four Mahashaktis, Saraswati, who's closest to Earth, and she's responsible for bringing all the other powers, the other three powers, into manifestation. And so it seems to me that peace, being the very last quality, is the culmination of all the previous 11 into peace that's within manifestation, right? Because that's what Mahasaraswati is. So it's a culmination of all of them. It's not a simple single state, but it builds up from all the previous ones.
Yeah. And allows them to work in manifestation, that they found the ground in which they are not contradictory. They are all efficient and they can find their place to contribute. Yeah, it's a great thought of peace, connecting to sincerity back from dark blue to blue sky. Yeah, this shift, you move towards the highest in the lowest, and there you have all the range of colors within. Yeah, this is very valuable for studies of the Gita Mother symbol. Yes, Kimberly, you wanted to say something? No? No? I thought you were thinking something to say.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm thinking that it's a beautiful conversation. I mean, the whole conversation is just really beautiful to be in the presence of peace and just hearing about it and just reflecting upon it with everyone is a real gift to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, it's well for all of us, yes, very satsang, where we all come with this aspiration, with this karma karanam to achieve that equilibrium. So karma is not against peace. It's kind of an inherent part of that state where all the energies are embraced. Peace is that field in which all the energies can find their place. But to arrive there, one needs to allow these energies to, one cannot stop them or break them and thinking that I will arrive at that peace which will embrace all the energies. It won't work that way. So the action is needed. Yeah. This is a puzzling part of karma yoga. The action is needed for peace. Our mind refuses all the time, asks, what? Again? Again you say this thing? Mind can't believe it. Either action or peace. Choose one. Sannyasa or yoga. That's
Peace in action.
Peace in action, yes.
That's what it is.
Perseverance. Yeah, we made this film Perseverance. Maybe you saw. May put it on our website. It was Mother's quotation, longish, but still. Right. Okay, let's look into the next if there is nothing else to say about these. Yada hi nendriyartheshu nakarmasva anushajjate nakarmasu anushajjate sarva sankalpa sanyasi yoga rudhastadochyate yada hi, and indeed when na indriyartheshu nakarmasu anushajjate, when one is not attaching oneself neither to the object of sense nor to the actions. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi, who renounced all the intentions, all the desires. Yogarudhastadochyate, then he is called the one who reached the top of yoga. So he is not motivated by the outer nature anymore. There is no such motivation. Nothing can motivate him from the outer nature. It goes by itself. He is not attaching himself neither to outer actions nor to the object of sense. He is not seeking sensual satisfaction. He is not seeking for the satisfaction of his own senses, which is the case in our life. We always look for some comfort to our senses. You know, we are hungry, we are this, we are that, cold or hot, painful, this, and so on. So we need beauty around us, we need, and activities. Because the nature is of triguna, and three gunas are causing us to do things, to rest, now to be active, to wake up and go for a walk, and then to rest, to sleep. So nature is making us do things. But the one who is not attaching himself neither to these activities nor to the self-satisfaction of senses, who renounced all his motivations, his personal motivations, he is on the top of yoga. And now my favorite shloka. Uddharet atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet. Atmaiva hayatmano bandhuh. Atmaiva ripur atmanaha. Bandhur atmatmanastasya yenatmaiva atmana jetaha. Anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. These two shlokas are my favorite from I don't know how many, 30 years. I'm thinking about them during all this time, and every time it comes back again and again. Udharet, one should raise Atmana by oneself, Atmanam, oneself. One should raise oneself by oneself. Natmanam avasadayet. One should not put down oneself by oneself. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuh, because oneself is the friend to oneself. Atmaiva ripur atmanach, and oneself is the enemy to oneself. What a poetry, yes. Bandhuratma, Tmanastasya, and of the one whose self is friend to himself, Yenatma ivatmana jitaha, is in the one who conquered himself by himself. Anatmanostu shatrutve varteta atmaiva shatruvat, and the self who he does not have mastery over oneself, anatmanastu, who does not possess himself. He is as if he hating himself as the enemy hates. It's a bad translation, and let us read how Sri Aurobindo translates. He puts this self and two selves as lower and higher self. And I didn't do it by purpose, because in the original text there is no such thing. There is only self, and that is the beauty of the verse. It doesn't say lower and higher self. So, by the self thou shouldst deliver the self. Thou shouldst not depress and cast down the self, whether by self-indulgence or suppression. For the self is the friend of the self, and the self is the enemy. To the man is his self a friend in whom the lower self has been conquered by the higher self. But to him who is not in possession of his higher self, the lower self is as if an enemy, and it acts as an enemy. So that's why the whole chapter is called Control by Oneself, self-control. That's what we try to gain in this life, is it not so? It's the constant ongoing battlefield, how to control oneself, one's lower self.
You know, it was called self-dual, right? So is dual the dual nature of the self, the higher and the lower? If you go back to the actual title of the chapter that you showed us, it was self-dual, which I couldn't understand at the time.
Subdual.
Subdual. Oh, okay, never mind.
To subdue.
No problem. Yeah. I was thinking the dual self.
Yes, it is a dual self. There is an inner self, which is the master of all the world, and there is the outer self, which is to be mastered in a way and to be illumined. And that's why we are in this dilemma, constant ongoing dialogue. You notice how we are speaking to ourselves inwardly. We are constantly having a dialogue between two selves. One tells another, and other answers, and other is kind of furious about something, and the other says, but come down, come on, what are you telling me this now? I'm constantly having this dialogue, like schizophrenic of some kind. So, but that is exactly our situation in which we are. Who will dominate? Who will take charge of this adhara? Today in the morning I was thinking that there is a fight going on for this body by so many forces. Why do they want to take this body and under their charge, their desires, there are preferences, there are fears, there are dogmas, there are so many different formations made by human beings and non-human beings from the past, from the future, I don't know from where else, but all of them are knocking into your doors and want to come in and take some place in this manifestation through your consciousness, to become important in your view. They want to live through you, through me. And then I thought, they don't want only the body. They want the one who is in the body. They want to subdue the one who is the master, and then they can do anything. They want my soul to surrender to their own preferences, to their own drives. And once my soul is doing it, and we are doing it all the time, forgetting who we are, and giving them charge as if it is we who want, then they can live. That's what they want. So these two selves is the major topic. Who will dominate, either our unborn, inborn self, true self, over our inherited self, which is not yet ourselves, which is in the state of becoming, or opposite way, we become that becoming and lose our inner control.
Vladimir, that was beautiful. Thank you for that. I'm going to throw this word moderation in between self-indulgence and suppression. And I have no idea what it is. I guess I just have, I surrender that I have the right ideas about desire, self-indulgence, suppression, moderation, yoga. It's, thank God for the grace, I suppose. That's it. And interesting though, that my ideas could be so far off.
And not only yours, you are not alone. So welcome to our party. Because this outer being, what we've inherited, what we build material from, is actually, it's a bigger cosmos, which also wants to become the divine. So it wants to come closer to the center. So it will be trying to take over every time. Yeah? And that is the way how these two collide or meet. And that's how the sacrifice is taking place. So everything is legitimate here. But who, on what side you are, on what side? On the outer nature side, on the lower self side, or on the higher self side? And it is not an easy task, because we inherited so much of the outer nature that it constitutes 95 or 99% of all we know. And so little we know of our unborn self, though it is eternal self who we are. But because of this birth and constant interaction with these forces, we build the whole groove and all mastery of dealing with them, that we really do not know who we are. So to discover that and to let it act upon this lower self, which is 90% of ourselves, and surrender that 90% to this 10% of ourselves, is not an easy task.
Well, the Gita does.
Question.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, Vladimir. So when I'm talking, or who am I? Am I a mixture of mental, vital, and physical? Is there a point of consciousness in me that's separate from all these? Or, and when we die, do all these things just split up and 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 I guess who are we? Are we a amalgam of these things, or is there a separate consciousness behind all this?
There is definitely someone there who is not your mind, who is not your vital, and not your body, for sure. That's given, because otherwise, why these should at all act in whatever way they do? Yeah. So they need to have some center somewhere. They want to get some illumination from the center, and that's why they approach it and they will act upon it. I think, at least that's where they meet. And we came here for the sacrifice. We are the Yajamana, the one being within, who is doing the whole transformation, offering of our embodiment itself is an offering. Our birth in this physical, mental, and vital being is already an act of sacrifice, because we took onto our unborn nature these lower members of consciousness which need help. They are looking for help. They're crying for help. They want to recover their divinity. They lost it long ago, from the beginning of creation. The light turned into the darkness. Now it wants to come back to its self-awareness. So we are here to facilitate that return. That's the whole thing we are here to do, actually. And the whole struggle is about that. You wanted to say something, Marta, no? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to mention how the Gita does not actually address transformation.
Mhm.
So here we see self-indulgence or suppression of the lower nature. And actually what we're striving for in Sri Aurobindo's terms and the mother's terms is transformation of the lower nature. And this reminds me that the other night I was reading in Questions and Answers of the mother, that account that she gives of the supramental ship. And for those of you who don't know, if you might not know it, essentially Mother has an experience, a vision of people in the ashram who are ready to be supramentalized, who are waiting for a process to reach this higher level of consciousness. And in it, she realizes, well, it comes to her in that particular context, the fruitlessness or irrelevance of judgmental nature and morality and what we think we're supposed to do and what really works and serves to advance us on the path. And it's also relative and individual. And she's describing that. So thinking about self-indulgence or suppression, for some people, for their advancement on the path, a certain stage of self-indulgence may serve to advance them, or suppression may serve to advance their progress, but we don't know. It's only a higher vision that's going to know that.
Absolutely. Actually, what you say is much more complex than it looks like, because definitely the how nature works. I was looking for this quotation. If you remember where to find it, I lost it long ago. How Sri Aurobindo describes how nature works. Nature picks up something, works it out, and then drops it, and takes something else and works on it, and then drops it, and then comes back to that what she dropped before, picks it up and continues. And for us, for our mind, is totally bewilderment. You know, we don't know why it dropped in the middle of success and switched to something which is totally failure, and worked out with failure for so long, and then left it as at the failure level, and then picked up something successful and turned it into failure, and failure into success. We have no idea what is going on. But there is something, she works out the elements on the way in this holistic, bigger vision, which are to be worked out for the welfare of all, for the whole. Everybody has to benefit, like nature. It's very complex, you see. When we see some wolf catching some, deer, we think poor deer. But then if you kill all the wolves as they did in Norway, then the deers were so many that they ate all the leaves and all the grass. And so there is always something which we do not see, how nature is wisely working out all the elements in this evolution of consciousness. So it may look like failure totally. Person had a failure life, but that life was needed for him to realize something profound for his own soul. And in the future, he will do much faster progress. We do not know, really do not know. Maybe it was the fastest way to fail totally in this life. It's again, I'm speaking from the mental point of view, from the mind point of view, which is again doing wrong justice to the very movement. But I don't have other instrument to speak about it. Yeah, so it will all sound contradictory, but that's okay. With reference to the truth, which I don't know, my mind is trying to kind of formulate something which is far beyond its comprehension. So it's kind of beautiful anyhow. Great, so we are 7 o'clock. If there are some burning thoughts or sharings, please, on these. Uddharet atmanatmanam. One should rise oneself by oneself, raise oneself by oneself. Atmanam navasadayet, natmanam avasadayet. One should not put down oneself by oneself. This is so beautiful. Should not put down. Atmaivahayatmano bandhu, because only oneself is a friend for oneself. Atmaivari puratmanach, only oneself is the enemy to oneself. We do not have another enemy. It is only me who is the enemy to myself, and only me who is the friend to myself. So here I am. My surface being is my enemy and my friend. It depends. And that surface is in contact with the whole world. And then the whole world is my friend or my enemy. It depends what attitude I have towards my surface being. Yeah. No burning thoughts? No. Ruthie, you are smiling, so maybe you have a smiling thought.
Nothing in particular to say, just thinking about the word peace and shanti. So when we end a yoga class, it's always shanti, shanti, shanti.
Mm-hmm. 3 times, for the mind, for the vital, and for the physical. Right.
Vladimir,
Mm.
so when you were speaking about this and, be a friend to yourself, it reminded me of the first time I ever had a little shift in that way of thinking. And it was when it had to do with dreams. And I was seeing a a friend who's a Jungian analyst, and she was saying how your sleeping self wants your dreams, remember them because it's yourself wanting to help you in your waking hours. And I never really thought of it like that, and I shifted a little bit. So this conversation just reminds me of that. And it's just a nice kind of gentle way of, being kind to yourself. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Great. Okay, then I close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santhu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.